everybody to WTL Where's the Line, Nebraska's first and only sports betting show. I'm your host, Andy Klassen, and I'm joined by a very special guest here for this segment, Taylor Mathis. And Taylor, hey, you did some work in our area before, right? This is kind of a little bit of a homecoming.
It is. Thank you for the warm welcome back to Nebraska. I got my sports betting and, well, I should say I got my sports broadcasting career underway right out of college in Kearney, Nebraska, working at NTV. So I'm very familiar with the state of Nebraska.
Oh, that's fantastic. ESPN Tri-Cities, Kearney, Grand Island, Hastings, we're right in the thick of it. And we do have to mention University of Iowa, right? You're a Hawkeye.
I am.
But what a great year for a Hawkeye. Caitlin Clark, all that history. That was a lot of fun.
It was. Even outside of being an Iowa fan, I think that a lot of sports fans in general can appreciate what Caitlin Clark has been able to do for women in women's sports.
Very much.
So getting to be a Hawkeye on top of it and being a part of my alma mater and everything that's been going on with Iowa, Caitlin Clark and women's basketball, it's been really fun to be a part of. And I have been following along for the first time ever, really getting to know women's basketball on a different level.
You and so many others, no doubt about it. But should we get into Major League Baseball, kind of your wheelhouse here as far as sports betting is concerned?
Yes, let's do it. I'm always down to talk the diamond.
And we know you're always down to talk about your Chicago Cubs, and they got a fabulous 3-game series coming up against kind of a up and down Boston Red Sox team. You can't get two more iconic brands than the Chicago Cubs, the Boston Red Sox. So many parallels there. That is a 3-game series from Friday to Saturday. Have a couple starters we're probably going to see. Let's start with the Cubs. We're probably going to see Jordan Wicks. He's really about 500 right now. When you talk about those strikeout props, usually set about 3.5, and half the time he covers. What are you seeing in this 3-game series?
Well, I love what I'm seeing out of my Cubs so far in general this season. We're only a half game back out of first in the NL Central, just behind the Brewers, who a lot of people to start the year were down on the Brewers. And I don't know if they just forgot how good the Brewers are,
Right.
but putting the Cardinals at the top of the futures to win the NL Central was crazy business to me. And we're seeing it right now with them being in last place in the NL Central. So I'm very happy with where my Cubs are currently sitting. Then you've got the Boston Red Sox in the AL East. They're just trying to chug along and keep up in one of the toughest divisions in baseball. I like the Cubs to take 2 out of 3 in this series. Game 1, you've got Shota slated out on the mound. He is 3-0 right now with a .84 ERA, just 2 earned runs and 2 walks. The lack of walks is really what people need to be looking at and something that we need to know if you're going to be betting within the prop market. Betting Shota under his walks total every game is almost guaranteed money. He's good at getting batters to chase out of the zone. It's happening 39% of the time. And the Cubs, on the other side of the ball, offensively, they're top 10 in slugging, top 10 in OPS, home run percentage. They're getting Cutter Crawford likely in game 1, who's got a .66 ERA, so he's very good as well. But the Cubs offense should be able to battle back a little bit, and they've got a little bit more firepower behind them than this Red Sox offense does, at least in game 1.
Yeah, Boston has a couple really good starters, and you already mentioned Crawford there, a sub-1 ERA. He's a strikeout machine with 30 already on the season. It's just that their bullpen is so beat up, and that's kind of what I'm thinking you're probably hanging your hat on as far as the Cubs taking 2 or 3 here, them getting into that bullpen.
I am. I think it's a matter of getting into the bullpen. We're seeing that the Cubs starting rotation, unfortunately, we are plagued by a lot of injury right now, this roster as a whole. And the Cubs are so competitive and keeping up with it. Even with these injuries, we're seeing wins. I don't feel like a lot of our starters, though, tend to be going deep into games. We saw yesterday, finally, we got a starter that went at least 6 innings, which is a big deal for us. We need our starters to be pitching a little bit longer. Then we get that bullpen in there that's got a top 10 ERA right now in baseball. They can keep things up. If the Cubs can get an early lead there with the better offense, then hopefully the bullpen can come in and keep that lead alive.
I think that's a welcome word there for a lot of our listeners. Cubs takes the series there over the Red Sox. Should we move on to the Colorado Rockies?
Yes, I got one more play for you, though. If you guys want to bet anything in that Cubs Red Sox series if you're into home run props.
Let's
Not
hear it.
necessarily hitting props are really my specialty, but I do look at them quite a bit. Unfortunately for the Red Sox, third baseman Tristan Casas is going to be out for quite some time now with that
Mhm.
injury that he suffered this week. Tyler O'Neill, he may be getting traded from the Red Sox after this season, but he's got 7 home runs right now on the year, top 3 in Major League Baseball. He's a home run guy, and the Red Sox have a high slugging percentage. I would look for him to possibly hit a home run there against Jordan Wicks in game 3 of that series.
Wicks does give up a long ball here and there. There's no doubt about it. Good stuff. Good stuff. So the Rockies are wrapping up a series here with the Padres, but we're looking ahead to their weekend series with the Astros. Two teams that are really struggling right now. Astros 7-17. I think a lot of folks thought they might struggle, but not to this extent. Rockies, they're kind of par for the course of what we thought we might see, that 6-18. However, most of those games have been on the road. They're a different team at home. You're getting a struggling Astros team. Is there some value at looking at the Colorado Rockies here at home?
I don't know if I would say that there's value. I think I'm surprised. I think as most people are, I don't think at this point in the season you people would be able to tell me that the Astros have only won one more game than the Rockies.
Right.
That's crazy talk. Nobody would have thought that at this point in the year. The Astros right now, if you're holding a futures ticket on the Astros, I would be slightly worried. They do have a chance to still turn this season around. 41% chance to make the playoffs, just a 23% chance though to win the AL West right now. So if you're holding on to that AL West futures ticket for the Stros, I'd be a little nervous at this point in the season, but we still got time to make the playoffs. I would look to back the Astros in a sweep here against the Colorado Rockies. This series is actually in Mexico City this weekend. So something to look at. They're not at home. We've got both teams that are going to be on the road. And the Astros are going to be facing two different, likely for this Colorado Rockies rotation, two righty pitchers. The Astros are top 10 in the league when it comes to strikeout rate against righty pitchers, and they're also top 10 in the league in hitting and on base percentage against righty pitchers. I think this is a good matchup here for the Astros and for them to be able to get back into that win column. Their starting pitching's got to step up a little bit. They've got a 3.26 ERA, 5.16 ERA, excuse me. So that's going to cut the Astros a little bit of a break.
Yeah, and that's a great point. That's why we love having folks like yourself on. On paper, it's a home game for the Rockies, but that elevation is actually higher in Mexico City, so that's probably a good thing for those Houston Sluggers. And the hitting hasn't been the issue for Houston thus far in the season. It's been their pitching. Do you think the Rockies bats might travel to Mexico City?
I don't. I'm not high on the Rockies whatsoever, guys. I'm sorry. It's sorry to say it. I know there's probably a lot of Rockies fans listening out there. But they just don't have it right now. And you've got the first game slated there against the Astros, Cal Quantrill. And I was high on him in spring training. He looked like he had gotten his command a little bit under control compared to the last two seasons. Doesn't seem to be the case though. He's not looking too great there. Granted, I do believe that it looks like the Astros have Hunter Brown slated as well. He's not looking too hot to start either. I think his ERA is sitting above a 9 at this point. Overall, though, because the bats wake up a little bit more with the Astros, I've got to back the Astros here. Possibly take a sweep in this. Not sure what the odds will be on that, but I'm assuming you'll likely be able to get it in plus money.
That's probably a good plus money type of a lean there. And Quantrill, as you mentioned, 12 walks to only 15 strikeouts. That's not the control that you want to see in your starter.
Take him under. If you're looking at the K-prop market, like I said, the Astros, they hit righties very, very well. I believe they have the second best K rate in baseball to right-handed pitchers right now. So if you are looking to do a pitcher prop, go with the unders on strikeouts there for Cal Quantrill. That'll be a good one.
Love it. All righty, real quick, let's work in the Royals versus Detroit. Another 3-game series, Friday through Sunday. Singer, Waka, probably going to see the mound for the Royals. And I think they have Waka. You know, he's 1-2 right now. He's got his ERA above 3.81. but he's still a strikeout machine. 25 Ks to only 9 walks. I think there's some good things from the starting pitching when you look at the Kansas City Royals early on here.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. And I've been high on the Kansas City Royals preseason as well. I think the Royals are a team that people were going to overlook, and they did a lot of work in that offseason to improve this roster. Actually, I'm going to throw myself back for a second. When I lived in Nebraska and was working at NTV, it was 2015, and that was the year the Kansas City Royals won the World Series.
Ooh.
So I got to experience quite a bit of that Kansas City Royals fandom, and I must say they remind me a lot of Cubs fans. So I'm always high on this Royals team to do well. I feel like they're a team that gets overlooked a lot, and the Cubs don't per se get overlooked, but we're the lovable losers. So there's something about that underdog mentality that both of these teams have, and they're both Midwestern teams. So I love I love the Royals, and I'm loving what I'm seeing out of them so far this season. I mean, so many of their hitters are doing well. The fact that they went out and they signed Bobby Witt Jr. to that 14-year deal, crazy. Great move on their part. It's obviously paying off in dividends for them. The pitching looks very good right now. Detroit, historically through last year, took 10 of 13 between these two teams. I think that this is a different Kansas City Royals team, though. And I wouldn't be shocked, though. This one's going to be close to me. I don't know. I would bet this more on a game-by-game basis as opposed to betting the series.
Okay. And you do have some fabulous starting pitching on the other side for Detroit. Screwball is sub to 1.82 ERA. That's fantastic. Only 5 walks on the season versus 35 punch-outs, 35 Ks. So yeah, that if he's going to take the bump, you might want to pump your brakes a little bit if you're betting the Royals.
Yes, I would agree. I was going to say the game that I would bet Detroit to take would be against Tyreek Skubal. The first game, I believe that Reese Olson is slated to pitch for the Tigers as of right now. That's a game that I'd be looking for the Royals to take in that one. Another trend that you might want to note a little bit, something very interesting about the Detroit Tigers. If you are looking to back them and you think that they are going to win the game, you should do it based on the run line, because trend-wise, they tend to be beating teams by more than a run when they do win games. So if you're looking to back the Tigers, take the run line as opposed to the money line.
Excellent. I'm glad you took me there, Taylor. You are the expert. And, you know, sports betting's still new here for a lot of Nebraskans, only been legalized for just over a year and a half now. What is the difference between a run line and a money line when we're talking Major League Baseball?
Okay. So if you're taking the money line, you are assuming that a team is just going to outright beat the other team. So for example, we've got the Royals versus the Tigers. If you think the Tigers are going to win, you bet the money line outright. All they have to do is beat the Royals for your bet to win. If the Tigers lose, though, your bet would lose. If you're going to bet the run line, generally in baseball, the run line is set to a 1.5. That means if the Tigers are the favorite, they are favorited by a 1.5. If the Royals are the dog, they are the underdog by a 1.5. Say you think the game's going to be close, you think that the Royals can keep the game within a 1.5, you would bet the plus 1.5 for the Royals to keep it within 2 runs. That means you could win that bet if they win the game outright, or even if they lose the game outright, but if it's by a run or less.
Well, fabulous. You got to win by 2.
Yeah.
If you're going to do the run line, you got to win by 2. Good stuff. Great stuff, Taylor. Thank you so much for joining us. We're up against it here, but hey, where can people follow and find you online?
You guys can find me online, social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at TMath Sports. In the next week here to get excited, I am putting out my very first ever episode of my show called First Base. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I've got some great guests that are going to be on it.
I'm excited about that. So First Base, and that's coming on YouTube.
It'll be YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
It's going to be everywhere. Awesome.
Everywhere.
Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. Don't go anywhere. This is WTL.